Welcome back to another episode of Formula One Fridays. I'm your host, Cranky Yankee F1. We are on week 3 of January. Yeah, week 3 of January. It's good to have you. Let's get straight into the news. The Chinese Grand Prix is under threat. Now, I say that tentatively because we don't know enough about the coronavirus to actually say that it's officially in any sort of danger. Formula One and the FIA, both of them have been silent about this. They have not produced any sort of official press release. We see that the Automobile and Motorsport Federation of the People's Republic of China has actually come out and said, look, motorsport activity is off the table until April. So with that said, the Grand Prix is actually in Shanghai, is scheduled to start on April 17th through the 19th. So that does leave some question marks lingering and just a big question mark hanging over the Grand Prix weekend itself. Are we going to be racing or are we not going to be racing? While we don't have any sort of official note about that stemming from, like I said, the camps of the FIA and Formula One, I can report to you that it certainly is under threat. Now, if the coronavirus does actually end up leading to us postponing the event itself, I don't think this is something that the FIA is going to be able to reposition to put back on the calendar. So that's something to consider. But like I said, we haven't had any sort of official word. We need to watch to see what happens, to see how the outbreak spreads. Hopefully not at all. So while that may not answer all the questions about this, it certainly introduces some new ones that I think more people should probably talk about. I don't think it's totally unrealistic to consider the fact that the Chinese Grand Prix may be off the table. And for the likes of Ferrari, this is not good news considering it's a power-hungry track, and this is something that I think in 2020, this was a result that they probably could have looked forward to early on in the season. Speaking of a Grand Prix that may not actually happen, we can talk about the Miami Grand Prix. In the Miami-Dade County, there is some local opposition to this. The local politicians' argument is going to be, well, we can't introduce any sort of new noise pollution, any sort of actual pollution in terms of the environment, and it's just not good for the day-to-day residents. We already have the Miami Dolphins here. So the argument to that is, well, if you already have the Dolphins, let's just put the track and the circuit around the Dolphins stadium. So if you read the news, you saw a bunch of people talking about the fact that the circuit was changed. But what they didn't really talk about was why did they all of a sudden change this? The outcry and the backlash from this was so strong that they're forced to change. And these first 2 meetings where the vote happened, it already wasn't strong enough to go through. As you guys know, I try to err on the side of a contrarian thought to give you some new information. And I can say that this is more than just a contrarian thought. This is going to be harder to get through. And just as I suggested, once, twice, and now a third time, this is not as simple as it looks. Local politicians, they have a case. And, the fact that it's met with so much resistance and the fact that Formula One has not just been able to bulldoze through, that should probably tell all of us that this isn't as simple as they thought. And if it was, we wouldn't still be going to the commissioner county votes. As I get more developments and more news, this is an ongoing breaking story. I will let you know. We have some more teams coming out and confirming when they're going to actually be launching. I will put some information up on screen right now where you can see what the dates are, what everyone said, what they've confirmed. But Racing Point, a couple other teams came out and said and confirmed here are the dates of our launch. Last but not least, let's talk about a Renault update. We see the engine chief at a Renault, Taffen, come out and say that their engine currently is better than Honda and Merc, but just behind Ferrari. This is one of those things that will get Renault in trouble. And I did want to report on it, not because I think it's viable news and I think it's true. I think it's more a sign of they need to take a page out of the Merc book and just put their head down and do their job. The more they say things like this, the tougher they make it on Ricciardo and Ocon, who are apologizing for the lack of performance from the PU in 6 months. Cyril has done this too. I think they have to save face. I think that's why they got rid of Hülkenberg. They were already on that path, despite his performance in 2019 not being that bad, depending on how you rate Ricciardo, of course. This doesn't make a lot of sense to come out and say before you step foot into that car. You just have the wind tunnel data. Renault is comparing their information, which, by the way, it's just coming out of their camp. We haven't seen it. I want to know what you guys think. Why would Renault set themselves up like this to say their engine is better than the team that they were nowhere near? And so they go on in this interview to somehow spin the fact that they have no customers as a positive. It's clear that having to worry about the expectations and the reliability of your customers, someone could paint that as difficult. But what you can't really do is say that overcomes having X amount more data is incredibly beneficial to your works program. A really strange quote and interview coming out of Renault. I don't think it's the right kind of quote you want to be seeing. And I think it spells bits of trouble for Renault. Because if anything, if there was some really good news this early, I certainly wouldn't be talking about it. But Who knows? Maybe I'm very wrong, and Renault fans, you can come on here and say you've got evidence that, you know, this is actually true, and I would love to see it. But for now, I don't think this was the wise thing to do, and I don't think this was the smart thing to do, to set expectations for your team. That's it for the news this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it, you liked the setup. If not, let me know in the comment section below. If you have any other suggestions, anything whatsoever, please let me know. These are for you. I'll be updating the podcast, so you guys have asked for that, and I'll be making its own separate video about that. But I just want to let you know that is in the works. Thank you for your time as always, and your feedback and your support, and I will see you very soon. Thanks, guys.